Hello everyone, my name is Maria. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am the tech support specialist at Thor 3D, and today I will be showing you the Calibry Mini scanner. This is what it looks like. It's quite light, it's handheld, it's very easy to travel with. This is the Calibry Mini, and it is intended for smaller objects, anywhere from 2 centimeters to 30 centimeters. As part of the kit, it does come with this calibration board. We suggest that you calibrate whenever you are traveling very much with your scanner, or just every 3 days the scanner will kind of let you know that it could be time to do the calibration. So, this is a scanner on wires. There's a 5-meter long cord, so it's quite easy to walk around any objects that you need. It is connected to a USB 3.0 port right now to this laptop that I'm using. So it uses 2 different cameras and a projector. So today I'm going to be scanning this small wooden statue for you. This is one of the kind of easiest objects to do because it does have a lot of geometric features, and it is the perfect size for our Calibry Mini scanner. I'm going to go ahead and now I will switch to a viewer screen so that you can actually see what I am doing on the touch screen. And the touchscreen is great because it allows us to look at what we are scanning on the touchscreen here, and we don't have to keep looking back at our laptop. We can see everything that's going on right here. Alright, so let me turn that on. Okay, so you should be seeing the statue here on our turntable. We do also sell these turntables as well. You don't have to buy one, it just kind of makes life easier to kind of scan objects faster. But it's not mandatory, as this is a handheld scanner and you can easily walk around any object. So here on the touch screen you see kind of the list of scans that I have done previously. You can see that there is the Calibry Mini scans and also the Calibry scans, because all scans that you do are stored on the hard drive of the laptop that all scanners are connected to. So nothing is actually stored in the scanner, it's all in your hard drive, and you can easily move it to other laptops or PCs for post-processing. So first things, let's go to our preview screen. So here we have kind of 3 different tracking modes. So for our statue here, because it has a lot of geometric features, I use the geometric tracking mode. So this we can use for human faces, we can use this for ears, for fingers, anywhere that has a lot of geometry. We can also switch to marker tracking mode, and the markers that come with the Calibry Mini are these kind of small blue markers that you can see on this object. Since this is quite flat, marker tracking would be perfect for an object like this, as they're just not enough geometric features. And finally, we have the texture tracking, and that is for flat surfaces like paintings where there are a lot of colors and not much geometry. For today's demo, I will be using the geometric tracking. Before I start any scan, I pop open the settings here and I can change how many texture frames the scanner will pick up. For example, if I need not only the mesh model, but I also need a good texture or color model as well, I can set the texture tracking to like let's say every five frames. So you'll be getting a lot of texture to then apply to the model, which I will be showing you in our software. The default settings set it to 20. If, for example, you do not need texture on the model at all, you can always set this number to 0, and then also the scan will weigh a little less. Also, the statue here is not particularly dark or particularly white, so I set my drop here, I set it to the middle. If this was a very dark object, I would set it to black here, or I would, if there was a very white or light object, I would set it to light. But for this, I'm just going to set it to the default setting of normal. Before starting any scan, I always turn on this feature. It's called Live 3D. And this allows us to see, while we are scanning the object, which parts we have already scanned and which parts still need to be scanned. So right now I'm still in the preview mode. I'm pointing my scanner at the object and you can see some colors showing up. So this color map is our distance map. So it shows us the optimal distance between the scanner and our object. And you can see I am holding the scanner quite close to the object because the Calibry Mini does have quite a smaller distance. If any of you have a regular Calibry, you would know that the distance there is quite larger because it is intended for larger objects. So I am happy with all of my settings and I turned on Live 3D, and at this point I can go ahead and start scanning. So I will actually be doing 2 scans. I will do the scan from this side, and then I will stop the scan, and then I will do a second scan of this object facing this way, and then I will combine those or merge those together in our software, and I will show you how to do all of that. So first, let's go ahead and do our first scan. So I'm going to go ahead and press play or press start. And you can see on the screen the object, and I try to keep it in the green zone, so that is the optimal distance between the scanner and my object. If I pull it back a little too far, it will go blue or purple, and that means that the tracking could be lost in that case. Or if I go too close and it turns red, I could also lose tracking in that case. So that is a good indicator to help us know what distance to keep from the object. So to get all of the features of my statue here, you can see I am turning the scanner and projecting our mesh onto all sides of this guy. We highly recommend that you keep turning the scanner so that you can get into all of the nooks and crannies of your object. And at the top you can see there is a counter of the total amount of frames that we have gotten from our scanning. I wouldn't pay too much attention to that number. It depends on how large your object is. Usually I try to get at least 2,000 frames per scan. That way that there's enough data to be able to then post-process and work with. So that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and stop the scan. And here you have in the top in the list the scan that I just did. So let me go ahead and turn over my object, and I will scan it from this side. So now we have our two scans, and I can either tap directly on the scanner and it will open in Nest, or I can open it from the list that you can see on the left hand side in Calibry Nest. Okay, there's one scan. Let's go ahead and open up the other one. All right, so let's look at our first scan here. And let's just look at all of the frames. You can see we got quite a lot of data. Now you do see some holes that I didn't kind of point my scanner towards, and that's why we have our second scan, so that we will be able to combine them and get all of those holes filled in. So you can see that there's quite a lot of noise around the object, and we can easily clean that up using the algorithms of Calibry Nest. So Calibry Nest is available to download from our website. It is included as part of the package with the scanner. Let me go ahead. First of all, I always go ahead and open the settings, and I'm going to choose the Calibry Mini. Okay. So the lowest resolution that is possible for the Calibry Mini is 0.2. You could lower it to 0.15. But there's a possibility that the edges won't be quite as sharp as we want. I'm going to increase it to 0.3 just so that post-processing can go a little faster. Set the sharpness to the middle. Now the registration algorithm, that's what cleans up all of our noise. And the finalization step here, that is what creates our mesh model. So for example, if there is a lot of noise, I always try to make sure to turn on preliminary cleaning. You can always select to turn this off, but there's more of a possibility that all of this trash flying around won't be all cleaned up. The same with filtering, it helps kind of clean that up and close that off. I won't be simplifying this, as that is a final step before I actually add texture, so I am skipping that. I am happy with my settings, and I can go ahead and click Save. And now the button right next to the settings here, that looks like a play button. If I hold it down, you can run registration finalization kind of separately if you just want to see them one by one. For this, as I'm happy with the settings, I'm going to go ahead and press it, and it will just run both registration finalization, just one after another. While that's processing, you can see that there's the status bar at the bottom in green, so that shows us how much of, like, how long the processing takes. Because this is quite a small object, and I don't have that many frames, I have kind of under 2,000 right now, so the processing is going quite fast, as you can see. Now, I also opened up this option here at the bottom that's called memory. Make that a little wider. So this is what shows us how much of your laptop or computer's RAM is being used by the Calibry Nest application. We highly suggest that you have a quite powerful kind of gaming laptop. The minimum specifications for your laptop or PC are all listed on our website, so please go check that out. So yeah, a small object like this usually processes quite fast. Also, if you have a fast computer, that definitely helps. while that's finalizing, I just wanted to show you in the settings, you can also change the interface colors to whatever you prefer. For example, you can change the colors of how you prefer to see the model. If you don't like the default colors of this green and blue, you can change it to whatever colors suit you. You can also change the theme to something darker, to dark, if you prefer that kind of option. Alright, so here we have our first model. Looks pretty good. So don't worry, once we merge, we will be able to fill in all of these. You can see quite clearly like the features that are on the statue here. You can see the face, the hands. Looks pretty good. So let me go ahead and run the same algorithm on our second scan. So I'm not going to change the settings. I can just leave them as they are. And I will press start. And it will make the mesh of our second scan. Please feel free to write any and all of your questions in the YouTube chat. We have a question regarding the turntable. We do have a link on the website to the turntable. You can contact your distributor to kind of see the kind of price range that we have for this turntable. We only currently sell this version, which can hold up to 120 kilograms. So it is also good for the Calibry Mini if you're scanning, for example, large objects or a whole human. So as I said before, all of the scans that you see on the left-hand side, they are all stored in the hard drive of your laptop. If I click on any of these scans, I can also open up the menu, and there's a button that says Open in Folder, and it will take you directly to the folder on your computer where it is. You can always change the default location for all of your scans. We have a very good question about the minimum requirements for RAM and VRAM. We do have all of those listed on our website. So the minimum we suggest is to have at least 16 gigs of RAM. Anything lower may not fully run the scanner and Calibry Nest. So let me just give an example. For example, this if I open up any of the scans, you can see kind of the parameters that were used to make this scan. You can see the date and the time. And if you open up this button here, Open in Folder, it takes you directly to where it is on your hard drive. Alright, so we finalized both results here. Now you can see there's a whole bunch of tools on the right-hand side that are now active. So what I'm going to do is cut off the table here as we don't need it. We can use either the marquee brush or the polygon lasso to remove anything we don't need. The polygon lasso draws polygons, or straight lines in this case. It's quite useful for this. And let me do that to my second scan. And I can also use my brush. you can see that there is some automatically generated names. If you don't like the random generated name that was created by the algorithm, you can always double click and change it to whatever name you want. So we have the finalized meshes of our two scans. Let's go ahead and combine them together. So I select both projects, and now this button that says Align by Points has popped up. And this is where we will combine our scans. So I made 2 scans, so I have just 2 scans in the list. There is no limit as to how many scans you can align or put together. It can be 2 scans, it could be 5 scans, it could be 10. Doesn't matter, they will all pop up in this list and you can combine them all. Now, since we scanned our statue in geometry mode, we will be connecting them in geometry mode. And what that means is I will have to find 3 common points on our model. Say, start with here, there's a point, and there's a point, and there's a point. I do try to kind of space these out as much as possible so that the algorithm can combine them better. So 3 points, as you can see, is the minimum. You can always add 5, 10 points if you want kind of an even crisper or better alignment. Here we can see on the right the kind of preliminary view. So it looks like our 3 points combined quite well. It's going to come together quite nicely. So if, for example, I'm not happy with any of these 3 points, I can always just double click and remove any of those points. Okay, so I'm happy with how this is looking. I'm going to go ahead, add to base, and click accept. And this is still our preliminary kind of combination. We haven't combined them yet. I'm going to go ahead and cut our table off of the frames themselves. That way it's not included in the mesh. So I just select and hit delete, and it removes anything we want. So, alright, I'm ready to kind of make the mesh of them combined, and you can see now I have 2 or more projects, and this next button has popped up, and it is called Multiple Registration and Finalization. So generally, if I am happy with how the registration algorithm worked for each scan, so there's not much trash, you know, a lot of the noise was cleaned up on each scan. So I can actually skip multiple registration. You can run both just to have a better, crisper model. At this point I can kind of increase my resolution a bit so that it will be a bit crisper. But since the preliminary kind of view looks pretty good, we don't have any trash, I just will be running the finalized result. Someone asked about the accuracy of results. So generally the accuracy for the Calibry Mini is up to 0.07 millimeters, and that includes for all of your results, so each individual scan as well as your merged results. So all of those specifications are also listed on our website, thor3dscanner.com. Regarding post-processing, this Calibry Nest application is included in the price with the scanner. But once you have finalized the mesh here, you can always export that result into any other software you may be working with. Okay, and here is our new generated combined mesh of our two scans. Looks pretty good. Now there are some holes from where I did miss, I didn't point the scanner there. We can also fill in any of these additional holes using the algorithm, which is this button in the middle here, fill selected holes. You can either choose the holes from the list, so it usually goes from larger to the smallest hole, or you can select the holes directly on the object. Let me just select a couple of them, and I click accept, and the algorithm will fill those in. Alright. So if you want to see how the mesh looks, you can always switch the view from the top, so either the shaded or the wireframe. So this shows us all of our polygons and how that looks. So you can see it is quite a nice tight mesh. Okay. So I did run this result on a 0:2 resolution and kind of middle sharpness. You can see a lot of the features, the eyes, the hands, the feet, like the crown, you can see it quite clearly. So you can always, if you're not happy with the result, you can change the resolution to be lower, higher, increase the sharpness up and down, and kind of generate multiple results and see which ones you like the most. For example, this was one result that I made, and this was run at 0:2 resolution, and this was done with high sharpness. So you can see a lot of the details clearly, but you can also see kind of the graininess of it creates. When I ran it at a lower resolution, this was a 0:3 result, you can still see all of the features, but it does look a bit more smooth. So please go ahead, you can always run multiple results and see which one you like best. Going back to our example here, now let's go ahead and apply texture. So let's make a color model. Okay. If I actually go back, open up the frames of each scan, and if you remember, I did before I started scanning, I set it to every 5 frames to capture texture. So if you look at all of the frames, you have a frame with this pink box. So the texture, is literally just photos that the scanner is taking, and that will be used to create our color model. So you can look at each individual frame to kind of see how it looks. So if you set it, for example, to not get any texture frames before scanning, you will not have any of these texture frames. Or if you set it to every 10th frame, you will have only every 10th frame as texture. So that is what the algorithm will be using to make our color model. So now, after the button that is next to our registration and finalization buttons, this is our texturizing button. So you can click this button, or you can click the hotkey F6. So if I press it, it will now ask me to simplify the model before texturing. So if colors are not too important, you can ask it to simplify, then the algorithm will be a little faster. If you do want very precise and crisp colors, you can choose to skip the simplification, but then the process will take a little longer. So for our purposes here, I will simplify this. So if this was a larger model, for example, if this was then an alignment of, I don't know, 5-6 scans, and I had to texturize it, without simplification, it will most likely take quite a long time. So right now I do have quite a fast laptop at 24 gigs of RAM, and with simplification this is going to be very quick. So again, depending on how much data you are working with, how large the scans are, plus how fast your computer is, that is how quick the post-processing will take. Just a reminder, feel free to leave any and all of your questions in the YouTube chat, and I will be happy to answer them. Alright, so since I simplified it, it did take only just a couple of moments. So you can see this is our texture model. You can see all of the different shades of brown on here. You can see the shadows on it. Looks pretty good. We can also at this point kind of modify our texture model using our tools for the texture model. We can adjust it. We can kind of play with the colors, with the contrast, anything like that. And now we have our two finalized results. So the mesh result, which we can save, and you can save it anywhere you want on your computer in 4 formats: in OBJ, WRL, PLY, and STL. And those can be exported into any other post-processing software, and the same can be done for our textured result. We have a very good question. Is it better for the scan if it is hanging in the air? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Do you mean the object you are scanning is hanging in the air? Because, well, if you do suspend an object from the air and it is not standing on something like a table, then the object will most likely turn and move, and that will be creating ripples on the actual object. So, for example, our statue here was just standing still, well, turning on a turntable, but it was fixed. So the scanner was able to get quite a lot of features, but if it was moving, then the scanner would most likely not understand all of the kind of geometry and features, so it could create a lot of ripples and interference for the scan. Same goes if you are scanning, for example, human faces. We do recommend that the person stand as still as possible, so not move their lips and try not to breathe for the minute or two while the scan is happening. Very good question. The difference between removing the table first and the second time. So the first time I only removed the table from the finalized result. So that just helps me to kind of merge and align better so that I can see the common points of geometry better. The second time I removed the table from the actual frames. So actually, before finalizing each result, I could have also cut the table off on the frames as well. So you can do that, but for example, if the model that we had didn't have as many geometrical features and we used something else, for example, like crumpled paper around the object for added geometry, cutting those right away off of the frames isn't recommended, as that will help the algorithm to finalize the result. So you can try both. You can try cutting it off the frames first and cutting it off the finalized result. So you can run the algorithm kind of multiple times, but if you do cut anything off frames, you will have to reload your object again. Switch back to Nest for a moment. Okay, so for example, I have already run the algorithm, the finalization, the registration finalization algorithm for my object. I can actually just save the individual result at this point, or I can save, for example, the whole project. So that will save all of the results with the scan. So the software does not save anything automatically, so we do recommend that you save each individual result, especially if you're working with multiple projects, if it's 3 or 4 projects with, for example, a lot of frames. But every time you can go back to your raw scan, open it up again, and run it with new registration and finalization parameters. Very good question. How long does the scanner do calibration? So there are 7 steps to the calibration process. You can take a look at that, how we do that in the manual and on our website. Generally, we recommend that you place the scanner and the calibration board on a flat surface like the table or the floor, and you do have to kind of get used to kind of aligning. You will see circles that will pop up for calibration. Let me So in the manual we have all of the procedure for calibration, so it will be kind of 7 steps as you kind of drag the scanner kind of back in the 7 steps. It usually takes me about 2 minutes to do. As I have had a lot of practice, it could probably take kind of up to 5 minutes if you're not used to kind of like holding the scanner and kind of getting that alignment. But it is quite simple. That is all. If we go back to our software. You can always open up the help section here. You can press F1 and that opens up the manual in your browser, Google Chrome or Firefox, whatever you use. You can also find the manual link on our website under downloads. So right underneath the link for downloading the software is our manual, and it lists all of the functions that you can do with our scanner and the software. You do not have to calibrate every time before scanning. It is recommended, as that just makes sure that all of the cameras are lined up and it's good. Actually, every 3 days, a message will pop up automatically on the scanner, kind of recommending that you calibrate it again. If you're definitely traveling a lot, because then the scanner lenses will move a little bit, then we recommend that you definitely calibrate before you do a new scan. Okay, we have a good question about point-to-point resolution. I'm not quite sure what you mean. Generally, the accuracy for the Calibry Mini is 0.07 millimeters, and the minimum point resolution you can generate is 0.15 with the Calibry Mini. So that is the lowest resolution that we recommend. Alright, well, thank you everyone for your time and attention. Please go ahead, take a look at our website. We have quite a few interesting case studies there, as well as different 3D models made with both the Calibry and Calibry Mini. So you can go ahead and take a look at those. You can also take a look at the Calibry Nest manual there. You can see in the bottom here, if you ever have any questions about the scanner or the scanning process or the post-processing, this is the support email, so support@thor3dscanner.com, and me or my colleagues will be happy to answer any of your questions. Okay, it's a very good question. What is the best way to scan a shoe? So, well, first of all, it depends how much detail you want from the shoe. So, for example, if it's very deep that you need the inside of the shoe, then it might be a bit tricky. I have scanned, for example, a child's shoe before using just 2 scans, one with the bottom sole and another scan that was done from the top. Let me actually go ahead and open up that scan. But generally, I would say 2-3 scans at the most. Okay, so this is the shoe that was scanned quite a while back. So there were 2 scans made. So you can see one that was from the top, and this is the result, the scan that was done from the bottom. And this was the aligned combined result. So for example, if you did need to kind of scan the very inside here, that would be tricky. You would have to end up kind of cutting the shoe in order to kind of get the scanner all the way in there. So this does have quite a lot of geometric features, as you can see. So it was quite easy to scan. If, for example, there aren't that many geometric features, if it's quite smooth, if I go to my frames, you can see when it was scanned, there was added geometry with these pieces of paper. So that extra geometry can definitely help us so that the scanner won't lose tracking, and we can get a nice, good, clean scan. And of course, all of that can be cut off. At the moment, we do not have a sample scan of hands. We do have a sample scan, I believe, on our website of a face. So please check that out. We are working on getting more samples and more scans on our website. So we will be adding more anatomy soon. Okay, good question. If you're scanning something dark, like I had previously said, in the scanner settings, you can change the drop that you see in the top right-hand corner for darker objects. Generally, we recommend that you don't scan in direct sunlight, as this is a light-based scanner and that can interfere with the scanner quite a bit. Right now, for example, there are overhead office lights. I have those turned off so that they don't interfere with the scanning process. All right, going back to our scanner settings. If I go back to the preview, okay, and as you can see that there's a drop here in the top right hand corner. So this is where we can set if we are scanning a darker object so that our kind of projected light is a bit stronger. So you can also change kind of how much flash. So for example, right now it is at maximum flash, so it is projecting quite a lot of light on your object. So if you do need more light, you can change that setting, or you can change it to less flash if that is what you need. Okay. Thank you everyone for your questions. So if you ever have any issues, you can email support@thor3dscanner.com or info@thor3dscanner.com to get any information about distributors and prices of our scanner and the turntable and the bundles we have available. So, let's see. Good question. Yes. So, yes, you do set the exposure that is prior to scanning. Yeah. Okay. So, thank you everyone for your time. Have a nice day. In a couple hours, I will be doing a second run through of this training if you weren't able to make it in this time slot. So, thank you everyone very much, and have a nice day.